William Mason tapped his fingers on the steering wheel as he drove through the small town of Lakeside. 15 years had passed since he last saw these streets. The lake glittered in the distance, just as he remembered. Some things never changed, even when everything else did. William was not the same skinny boy who left here at 18 with nothing but a scholarship and determination. Now at 33, he owned Starbound Industries, the company building humanity's first ship to the stars. His face appeared in business magazines. His bank account had more zeros than he could have imagined as a child in the foster system. He checked his watch. The government meeting had ended early, leaving him with rare free hours. His stomach growled. The last proper meal he had was yesterday's breakfast. A small building with a neon sign reading Betty's Diner caught his eye. William pulled his expensive car into the nearly empty parking lot. Places like this served the best coffee. His assistant Alan would disapprove of him eating at such a basic place, but William still preferred simple food to fancy restaurants. The bell jingled as he pushed open the door. The smell of coffee and pie filled the air. William chose a booth by the window and picked up a plastic menu. "Coffee while you decide?" asked a voice. William looked up. A woman about 26 years old stood there holding a coffee pot. She wore the blue uniform of the diner with a name tag that read Abby. Something about her face made William pause. Her eyes were green, just like his, just like their mother's. "Yes, please," he said, watching as she poured the coffee. "Cream? No, black is fine." She nodded and walked away. William found himself staring after her. There was something familiar in the way she moved, in the shape of her face. But many people looked similar. It was probably nothing. He ordered a burger and fries. While waiting, he checked his phone. 12 new emails about the Starship project. The government wanted changes to the design. They always did. William sighed and put the phone away. He came here to escape work for an hour. Abby returned with his food. As she set the plate down, William noticed a small mark on her wrist, a birthmark shaped like a tiny crescent moon. His heart stopped for a moment. His little sister had that exact same mark. William hadn't seen Abigail since he was 10, and she was 3. The foster system separated them despite his tears and promises to take care of her. For years he searched for her, hiring people to find her once he had money. They never found anything. "Is something wrong with your food?" Abby asked, noticing his stare. William blinked. "No, sorry, That birthmark on your wrist? My sister had one just like it." Abby touched the mark. "Oh, this? Had it since birth? Are you from around here?" "I grew up here but left a long time ago. My name is William Mason." Her eyes showed no recognition of his name. If she was his sister, she wouldn't remember him anyway. She was too young when they were separated. "I'm Abby Turner. Well, Abigail, but everyone calls me Abby. Abigail." The name hit him like a physical blow. That was his sister's name. "Nice to meet you, Abby. Do you mind if I ask, were you adopted?" A guarded look crossed her face. "No. I grew up in foster care." "Why?" William's hands trembled slightly. "I'm sorry for the personal questions. It's just, I had a sister named Abigail. We were separated in foster care when I was 10. I've been looking for her for years." Abby's face softened but remained skeptical. "That's sad. But there must be thousands of Abigails in foster care." She would be 26 now, and she had that exact birthmark. Abby took a step back, her face showing confusion and disbelief. "Look, I have other tables." "Of course," William said quickly. "I'm sorry to bother you." He ate his burger without tasting it, mind racing. The chances were small, but the birthmark, the age, the name, it was too much to ignore. When Abby brought his check, William wrote his number on a napkin. "I know this sounds crazy," he said, "but if there's any chance you're my sister, I would like to find out. I can arrange a DNA test. No pressure, but if you're curious, please call me." Abby took the napkin slowly, looking at his number. "You really think I might be your sister?" "I think it's possible. Worth finding out, don't you think?" She tucked the napkin in her pocket. "Maybe. I'll think about it. William paid and left a large tip. As he drove away, he called his assistant. Alan, I need you to clear my schedule for the next few days and find the best DNA testing service in Lakeside that can give fast results. 3 days later, William sat across from Abby in the same diner. This time she wasn't working. The DNA test results lay on the table between them. 99% match, Abby said, her voice quiet. You really are my brother? William nodded, his eyes wet with tears he tried to hold back. I never stopped looking for you. Not for all these years. I didn't even know I had a brother. The file said I had no family. Abby's hands shook as she held the paper. All this time I thought I was alone. You're not alone anymore, William said. If you want, I'd like to be part of your life now. Abby looked at him, this stranger who was her blood. This is a lot. You're a famous billionaire. I'm just a waitress trying to pay for community college. You're not just anything, William said firmly. You're my sister. The only family I have left in the world. What happens now? Abby asked. William took a deep breath. That's up to you. I won't push. But I'd like to get to know you if you'll let me. Abby was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with green eyes, so like his own. I'd like to know about our parents. No one ever told me anything. William smiled, pulling an old photo from his wallet. It showed a young couple holding 2 children. I have pictures, not many but some. Our mom loved to sing. Dad was good at fixing things. They died in a car crash when I was 9 and you were 2. Abby reached for the photo, touching the faces of the parents she never knew. For the first time, she saw herself in someone else's features. I have more photos at my hotel, William said, and lots of stories. I get off work at 8, Abby said. I'll be here, William promised. And this time, unlike 23 years ago, it was a promise he could keep. For the first time since he arrived in town, William felt like he had truly come home. 1 week after their first meeting, William drove Abby to the Starbound Industries headquarters. The massive glass building reflected the morning sun. Abby pressed her face to the car window, eyes wide. You own this whole building? She asked. William smiled. The company does. I started it 10 years ago in a tiny office with just 3 people. Now we have over 2,000 employees. He parked in his reserved spot near the entrance. As they walked to the building, Abby tugged at her blue dress. She had bought it yesterday after William invited her to see where he worked. It was the most expensive piece of clothing she had ever owned. But next to William's tailored suit, she still felt underdressed. Everyone's going to wonder why you're showing a waitress around, she said. William stopped walking. You're not just a waitress, Abby. You're my sister. And you're also a student studying astronomy who works hard to pay her own way. Never let anyone make you feel small because of your job. Abby nodded but didn't look convinced. Inside, people stared as William led her through the lobby. They whispered behind their hands. William's assistant, Alan, met them by the elevator. Mr. Mason, your 10 a.m. meeting with the board has been moved to 11, and Dr. Franklin wants to speak with you about the engine calculations. Alan glanced at Abby with curious eyes. Alan, this is my sister Abigail. Abby, this is Alan, who keeps me from missing important meetings. Alan's eyes widened. Sister? I didn't know you had a sister. It's a recent discovery, William said. We were separated as children. The elevator took them to the top floor. William's office had glass walls that looked out over the city. On one wall hung a large model of a spaceship with Earthseeker written on its side. That's it, William said. The first ship that will take humans to another star system. We're building it right now. Abby walked to the model, reaching out but not quite touching it. It's beautiful. Want to see the real thing? Abby's face lit up. Can I? They took the elevator down to the manufacturing floor. Workers in white suits moved around a massive structure. It was only a skeleton of a ship, but already Abby could see its shape forming. We've been working on this for 5 years, William explained. The government finally approved full funding last month. In 3 more years, it will carry 1,000 people to the Proxima Centauri system. To start a colony, Abby said, her voice full of wonder. I've read about it in science magazines, but I didn't know your company was building it. A tall man in a lab coat approached them. William, we need to talk about the propulsion system. The numbers aren't adding up. Abby, this is Dr. Peter Harris, our lead engineer, William said. Peter, my sister Abby. Dr. Harris nodded quickly at Abby before turning back to William. The test results show the engine overheats after just 72 hours. We can't figure out why. William frowned. Show me the data. Dr. Harris led them to a room filled with computers. He pulled up diagrams and numbers on a large screen. William studied them, his face serious. We've tried adjusting the cooling system, but nothing works, Dr. Harris said. Abby stood quietly behind them, looking at the screen. After a moment, she spoke. Have you checked the fuel mixture? Both men turned to look at her. The what? Doctor, Harris asked. The fuel mixture, Abby repeated. In the diagrams, the oxygen ratio looks too high. That would cause extra heat during the reaction. Dr. Harris stared at her. How would you know that? William watched his sister with growing surprise. I've been taking astronomy and physics classes, Abby said, her cheeks turning red under their stares. And I read everything I can find about space travel. The articles about the J-17 engine prototype mention this exact problem. They fixed it by reducing the oxygen percentage by 3.8%. Dr. Harris turned to the screen, typing quickly. After a few minutes of checking calculations, he looked up with shock on his face. She's right. The ratio is off. How did we miss this? Sometimes fresh eyes see what others miss, William said, smiling proudly at his sister. Later, they sat in the company cafeteria eating lunch. Several of William's employees had stopped by their table, all wanting to meet the sister no one knew. About? You didn't tell me you were so interested in space engineering, William said. Abby pushed her food around her plate. It was just a hobby, something to dream about while I saved up for school. A hobby that just saved us months of work, William pointed out. Peter said your idea is going to work. They're adjusting the fuel mixture now. It was nothing, Abby said. Just something I remembered reading. A woman in an expensive suit approached their table. William, we need to discuss the investor meeting tomorrow. William nodded. Tina, this is my sister Abby. Abby, this is Tina Rogers, our vice president of operations. Tina looked Abby up and down. Her eyes lingered on Abby's simple dress and worn shoes. Charming, she said with a thin smile. William, when you're done with your family reunion, Richard wants to speak with you about the security protocols. After she left, Abby sighed. She doesn't like me. Tina doesn't like anyone, William said, except investors with money. Don't worry about her. Everyone here is so smart and successful, Abby said quietly. I feel so out of place. William leaned forward. You just solved a problem our entire engineering team couldn't figure out. You belong here more than most people. I got lucky. No, you were prepared. You educated yourself even when it was difficult. William took a deep breath. Abby, how would you feel about working here? Abby's fork clattered to her plate. What? Not because you're my sister, William said quickly. Because you have a natural talent for this work. We could arrange your schedule around your classes. The pay would be better than the diner. But I don't have a degree or experience. You have knowledge and fresh perspectives. That's what we need. William smiled. Think about it. No pressure. As they drove back to Abby's small apartment later that day, she was quiet, looking out the window at the passing buildings. Too much. For one day? William asked. Abby turned to him. I keep thinking I'll wake up, that none of this is real. It's real, all of it. My whole life I thought I was alone. Now I have a brother who owns a spaceship company. She laughed, a sound of disbelief and joy mixed together. I don't know how to process all this. William pulled up in front of her apartment building. One day at a time. That's all any of us can do. Abby nodded. One day at a time. She opened the car door, then paused. About the job. I think I'd like to try. If you're sure. William smiled. I'll have Alan call you tomorrow with the details. As he watched her walk into her building, William felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. The weight of responsibility for someone else. For family. It scared him, but it also filled an empty space inside him that success and money never could. 2 months passed quickly. Abby settled into her new job at Starbound Industries. William gave her a position in the engineering department, working directly with Dr. Harris. At first, the other engineers looked at her with doubt. They had years of education and experience. She was just the boss's sister who used to serve coffee. But after she helped solve the fuel mixture problem, they began to respect her natural talent. Today, Abby sat in a meeting room with the engineering team. They discussed changes to the ship's living quarters. Dr. Harris pointed to a diagram on the screen. The current design gives each person 50 square feet of private space, he said. That's too small, Abby spoke up. People need more room if they're going to live in space for 5 years. Richard Powell, the head of security, frowned at her from across the table. More space means more weight. More weight means more fuel. More fuel means more money. But what about the people? Abby asked. They're not just cargo. The mission comes first, Richard said coldly. Personal comfort is secondary. William, who had been quiet until now, looked up from his tablet. Abby's, right? We need to find a balance. Let's look at redesigning the common areas to give more private space. Richard's face tightened, but he nodded. The meeting continued, but Abby noticed Richard watching her with narrowed eyes. He had never seemed happy about her presence in the company, but today his looks felt almost angry. After the meeting, William asked Abby to come to his office. When they arrived, Alan was waiting with worried eyes. What's wrong? William asked his assistant. Someone accessed the ship designs last night, Alan said, from inside the building. William's face grew serious. Show me. Alan pulled up security logs on William's computer. At 2:14 a.m., someone used Dr. Harris's access code to download the entire design database. But Dr. Harris was at home asleep. So someone stole his access code, William said. Or someone gave their access code to someone else, said a new voice. They turned to see Richard Powell standing in the doorway. He walked into the office, his eyes fixed on Abby. What are you suggesting? William asked, his voice suddenly cold. Just that it's interesting timing, Richard said. A complete stranger shows up claiming to be your long-lost sister. 2 months later, our most valuable designs are compromised. Abby felt her face grow hot. I would never steal anything. This project means everything to me. You barely know her, Richard said to William. How can you be sure? DNA doesn't lie. William replied, and I trust my sister completely. Richard shrugged. As head of security, it's my job to consider all possibilities. I've started an investigation. We'll find out who's responsible. After Richard left, Abby sat down heavily in a chair. He thinks I did it. He's just doing his job, William said, but he didn't sound convinced. Don't worry about it, we know you're innocent. But over the next week, the worry grew. Richard's investigation seemed to focus mostly on Abby. He questioned her multiple times, asking about her movements, her access to company computers, even her financial situation before meeting William. Why would I steal designs from my own brother's company? She asked during one interview. Money, Richard replied simply. The Chinese or Russians would pay millions for these plans. And until recently, you were struggling to pay rent. On Friday afternoon, Abby was working late in the lab. Most people had gone home. She was just finishing some calculations when she heard a noise from Dr. Harris's office. The door was slightly open, though she knew he had left hours ago. Quietly, Abby walked to the door and peeked in. Richard Powell stood at Dr. Harris's computer, copying files onto a small drive. Her heart began to race. Richard was the thief, not her. Abby stepped back, planning to find security, when her phone buzzed. Loudly, Richard's head snapped up. He saw her through the doorway. Abby, he said, his voice suddenly friendly. Working late too? Abby tried to keep her voice steady. Just finishing some work. I thought everyone was gone. Richard walked toward her, slipping the drive into his pocket. I was checking on security protocols. After the breach last week, we can't be too careful. Of course, Abby said, backing toward the door. I should go find William. He asked me to meet him. William left an hour ago, Richard said, still moving. Toward her. I saw him drive away. We're alone here. Fear rose in Abby's throat. She turned to run, but Richard grabbed her arm. You saw, didn't you? He asked, his friendly tone gone. That's too bad. I liked you, Abby. You're smart, but you should have minded your own business. Let me go, Abby said, trying to pull away. I can't do that. Richard pulled her toward the elevator. We're going to take a little trip. By the time they find you, the designs will be long gone and poor William will think his sister abandoned him, just like everyone else in his sad life. Abby's mind raced. The elevator was at the end of the hall. If Richard got her in there, no one would hear her scream. She had to do something now. Why would you do this? She asked, trying to slow their walk. William trusts you. William is a fool, Richard spat. He wants to give away humanity's future. These ships should go to the right people, not just anyone. What do you mean? Richard laughed. You think there's room for everyone? Earth is dying. Resources are running out. Only the worthy should escape to the stars. And who decides who's worthy? Abby asked, still trying to think of a way out. People. With power. People with money. People like your brother, though he's too soft to see it. They reached the elevator. Richard pushed the button, still gripping her arm tightly. Abby remembered something William had shown her on her first day. Every floor had an emergency alarm. It was behind a small red panel on the wall just a few feet away. As the elevator dinged, Abby pretended to stumble. She fell against Richard, throwing him off balance. In the moment his grip loosened, she tore away and lunged for the red panel. Her fingers found the switch and pulled it down. Immediately, alarms blared throughout the building. Richard rushed toward her, his face twisted in anger. Security will be here in 30 seconds, Abby said, backing away. All the exits lock automatically. Richard stopped, his eyes darting around. Then he smiled coldly. They'll find you alone. It will be your word against mine. And who will William believe? His trusted security chief of 8 years or the sister he just met? William will believe the security cameras, Abby said, pointing to the ceiling corner where a small camera watched silently. The ones you forgot about. Richard's face went pale. In the distance, they could hear the heavy boots of security guards running toward them. Richard turned and ran down a side hallway, disappearing from view. Minutes later, the security team arrived, followed shortly by William, who had been called by the system automatically. When he saw Abby safe, he hugged her tightly. What happened? He asked. The alarm said there was an emergency. Richard is the one who stole the designs, Abby said, still shaking. I caught him copying files. He tried to take me somewhere, saying only the worthy should go to the stars. William's face darkened with anger. Show me the security footage. The next morning, William called an emergency board meeting. The 12 members of the Starbound Industries board sat around the large table, faces serious. William stood at the head of the table, Abby beside him. On the large screen behind them played the security footage of Richard stealing files and threatening Abby. As you can see, William said when the video ended, Richard Powell has betrayed our company. He stole our designs and planned to sell them. Where is Richard now? Asked. Tina Rogers, gone, William replied. Security searched his house but found nothing. He's disappeared. The FBI is looking for him. An older man at the far end of the table cleared his throat. This was George Lambert, the company's largest investor. What exactly did Powell mean? About only the worthy going to the stars? William glanced at Abby before answering. We've discovered evidence that Richard was working with a group called Elite Horizon. They believe space colonization should be limited to the wealthy and powerful. They want to make the Earthseeker a private venture rather than the public mission we've been planning. Murmurs spread around the table. Abby noticed several board members exchanging looks. Perhaps, said George slowly, Powell had a point. The room went silent. William stared at the man. Excuse me? Not about stealing designs, of course, George said quickly, but about reconsidering who goes on these ships. The costs are enormous. Shouldn't those who fund the project have first choice of seats? That was never the mission of this company, William said, his voice hard. The Earthseeker is meant to ensure humanity's future, not just the future of the rich. Tina Rogers spoke. William, be reasonable. The government is now questioning our security protocols after this breach. We could lose their funding. Private investors might be our only option going forward. William looked around the table. The expressions he saw troubled him. Many seemed to agree with George and Tina. I see, William said quietly. Abby, would you excuse us? The board needs to discuss this privately. Abby didn't want to leave, but she nodded and walked out. She waited in William's office for over 2 hours. When he finally returned, his face was grim. What happened? She asked. William sank into his chair. The board is split. Half want to continue as planned. Half think we should go private and sell seats to the highest bidders. They can't do that. This ship is for everyone. They can if they get one more vote on their side. William rubbed his tired eyes. The government called too. They're considering pulling our contract because of the security breach. But that's not fair. Richard was the one who... I know. But they're worried. Our whole system is compromised. William looked at his sister. They're sending inspectors next week. If they aren't satisfied with our new security, we lose everything. Abby sat down across from him. What are you going to do? William was quiet for a long moment. Then he straightened in his chair. I need to think. Go home, Abby. Get some rest. It's been a long day for both of us. But Abby could tell from his eyes that he wouldn't be resting. He had that look she was beginning to recognize, the one that meant he was forming a plan. The next day, William didn't come to the office, nor the day after. When Abby called him, he only said he was working on something important and would explain soon. On the third day, he finally returned. He called everyone, from the board members to the cleaning staff, to gather in the main manufacturing hall where the ship was being built. William stood on a platform before the half-finished Earthseeker. Abby stood in the crowd, watching her brother with worry. He looked tired but determined. 2 years ago, William began, his voice echoing in the large space. I had a dream that humanity would reach the stars not just as explorers, but as settlers, that we would ensure our species' survival by spreading beyond one fragile planet. The crowd was silent, listening intently. That dream is now at risk. Not from outside forces, but from within. From the idea that only certain people deserve to be saved. From the belief that money should determine who gets to start humanity's next chapter. William's eyes swept over the crowd. I refuse to accept that, and so I've made a decision. He took a deep breath before continuing. As of this morning, I have purchased 70% of Starbound Industries shares, giving me controlling interest in the company. Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. Board members looked at each other in shock. To do this, I've sold most of my personal holdings, my houses, my cars, my investments, everything except a single apartment and enough to live comfortably. Abby's mouth fell open. William had been a billionaire. Now he had given it all up. Additionally, William continued, I am restructuring Starbound Industries as a public benefit corporation. Our new charter, which I signed this morning, legally binds us to the mission of making space accessible to all of humanity, not just the privileged few. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered, others protested loudly. Tina Rogers stormed out, followed by George Lambert and 3 other board members. Those who wish to leave the company may do so, William said calmly. But those who stay will be part of something truly important, ensuring that humanity's future belongs to everyone. More people cheered now. especially the engineers and workers who had believed in the original mission. "One last announcement," William said, raising his hand for quiet. "To lead our new engineering division focused on accessible space transport, I am appointing someone with fresh perspectives and remarkable talent. My sister, Abigail Mason." All eyes turned to Abby. She stood frozen in shock. William smiled at her, waving her up to the platform. On shaky legs, she made her way through the crowd. "I can't," she whispered when she reached him. "I don't have the experience." "You have the vision," William said quietly, "and that's what we need most right now." Turning back to the crowd, William raised his voice again. "The path forward won't be easy. The government is questioning our security. Investors are pulling out. Our stock will probably crash tomorrow, but we will succeed, because our mission matters more than money or power. It matters for all of humanity." Later in William's office, Abby still couldn't believe what had happened. "You gave up being a billionaire," she said. "Why?" William looked out the window at the city below. "When I lost you as a child, money didn't matter. When I found you again, money didn't matter. What matters is people, family, taking care of each other." He turned to her. "I realized I was building a future I didn't believe in." "What happens now?" Abby asked. "Now we rebuild. Prove to the government our security is fixed. Design ships that cost less so more people can go to the stars." William smiled at his sister. "We change everything." Abby thought about the girl who had poured coffee in a diner just months ago. How different her life was now. How different the future might be because of what William had done. "I'm with you," she said, taking her brother's hand all the way to the stars. 5 years passed. The large viewing platform at Starbound Launch Center was packed with people. Reporters from around the world pointed cameras at the launch pad, where 3 ships stood ready. The center ship, larger than the others, had "Family" star painted on its side in bold letters. William and Abby stood at the front of the platform. Both wore the blue uniform of Starbound Industries, though Williams had the gold trim of the company president, while Abby's had the red trim of the chief engineer. 10 minutes to launch," announced a voice over the speakers. William looked at his sister with pride. "Nervous?" Abby smiled. "A little, but mostly excited. We've been working toward this day for so long. So much had changed since William had given up his fortune to save the company's mission. The first year had been the hardest. The stock had indeed crashed. Many employees had quit. The government had almost pulled their contract, but slowly they had rebuilt. Abby had proven herself a brilliant engineer. With William's support, she had finished her degree while working. Her new design for smaller, more efficient ships had changed everything. Instead of one massive colony ship that could only carry the wealthy few, they now had a fleet of ships that cost much less to build and operate. "There's Dr. Harris," Abby said, waving to her old mentor who now worked as her deputy. He waved back, giving her a thumbs up. A reporter approached them. "Mr. Mason, can you tell our viewers about today's launch?" William nodded. "Today we're launching the first 3 ships of the Horizon fleet. The Family Star will carry 200 colonists to establish the first settlement on Proxima B. The other 2 ships will follow with supplies and more colonists next month, and—" "How were the colonists selected?" the reporter asked. "By lottery," William answered. "Anyone could apply. The only requirements were good health and the skills needed for a new colony. We had millions of applications from around the world. Some critics say you destroyed a profitable company with your idealism," the reporter said. "Your stock is still worth only half what it was 5 years ago. Any regrets?" William smiled. "Not a single one. We're not just making money now. We're making history, and doing it the right way." The reporter turned to Abby. "Ms. Mason, you went from waiting tables to designing spaceships in just 5 years. How does that feel?" "Like a dream," Abby answered honestly. "But it proves something important. Talent can be found anywhere, in diners and factories in poor neighborhoods. If my brother hadn't given me a chance, these ships might never have been built." After the reporter left, Abby and William walked to a more private section of the viewing platform. From here, they could see the families of the colonists waving to their loved ones who were already aboard the ships. "I got a message from Richard Powell yesterday," William said quietly. Abby stiffened. "What did he want?" "To apologize, believe it or not. He's in prison for industrial espionage. Gets out next year." William shook his head. He said watching us succeed despite his actions made him question everything he believed. "Do you forgive him?" Abby asked. William thought for a moment. "I'm working on it. His actions led us here in a strange way. If he hadn't tried to steal our designs, I might never have seen how far some board members would go to keep space only for the wealthy." 5 minutes to launch, the voice announced. They turned to watch the final preparations. On the launch pad, steam vented from the ships as fuel lines disconnected. The crowd grew quieter, the excitement building. "Remember when we used to look at the stars from Betty's Diner parking lot?" Abby asked. "After my shifts, you would pick me up and we'd sit on the hood of your car talking about space." William laughed. "You always said the same thing. Someday, I'll go there. And now we're sending others instead." Abby's voice was wistful. William looked at his sister with surprise. "You want to go?" "Sometimes I think about it," Abby admitted. "Being one of the first humans to set foot on another world. But my work is here. We still have more ships to build. 3 minutes to launch." Below them, in the control room visible through large windows, dozens of technicians monitored screens and equipment. Among them was Betty, the former owner of the diner where William had found Abby. After the diner closed, William had offered her a job as operations manager. Her organizational skills had proven perfect for keeping the complex launch schedules on track. "We should do something to help others like us," Abby said suddenly. "Children separated in foster care." William nodded. "What do you have in mind?" "A foundation to help foster children stay together and to provide education for those who want to study science or engineering." Abby's eyes were bright with the idea. "We could call it the Mason Family Foundation." 1 minute to launch, William put his arm around his sister's shoulders. "I think that's a perfect idea." The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. The crowd joined in, their voices rising together. 7, 6, 5. William and Abby counted along, their eyes fixed on the ships. 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire erupted beneath the ships. The roar was deafening even through the protective glass. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the 3 ships rose into the clear blue sky. White trails followed them as they climbed higher and higher. The crowd cheered wildly. Many people cried, overcome with emotion at seeing humanity take its first real step to the stars. William felt tears in his own eyes. Next to him, Abby was crying openly, her face shining with joy. For 7 minutes, they watched as the ships grew smaller, finally disappearing from view. The mission controllers announced that all 3 had successfully reached orbit. More cheers erupted from the crowd. As people began to leave the viewing platform, a young girl approached William and Abby. She was about 12 years old, wearing glasses too big for her face. "Mr. Mason? Ms. Mason?" she said shyly. "Could I please have your autographs? I want to be an engineer like you someday, Ms. Mason." Abby knelt down to the girl's level. "What's your name?" "Lily. I live in the East Side Children's Home." Abby and William exchanged a look. They both knew what it meant to grow up in the system. "Lily," Abby said, signing the girl's notebook. "If you want to be an engineer, I think we might be able to help with that." As they talked with the young girl about her dreams, William thought about how much had changed because of one chance visit to a small diner, how finding his sister had changed not just their lives, but potentially the future of humanity. The ships were now on their way to a new world. The Mason Family Foundation would soon help other children reach for their dreams. And it all began because a billionaire discovered his lost sister working as a waitress, and what he did next changed everything.